We're sitting here with Be Blessing. My name is Ken Ojala. It's October 11th, 2014, and Bea is coming up on her 90th birthday in a few weeks, and we just wanted to get some ideas of what her life was like and some of the things that were interesting to her. Okay, give us some background first of all. Why don't you tell us like where you your date of birth, and where you were living at the time?
When I was born in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and my dad, actually he was a policeman in Uniontown, Pennsylvania for a while, and he worked in the coal mine, and actually when he worked in the coal mine, we had houses all the same looks, sizes, everything was all the same. And my mother woke up one day and she found these clothes in the bedroom, and she found out some guy was drunk. When he came home, he slept in my brother's bedroom, and he left his clothes, and he found out the next morning where he was at. So.
Oh, wow. Now, do you have vivid memories of your grandparents, and like what were their names, and did they live close by, and did they interact with you?
Oh, well, they lived in Deerpark, Maryland, and we'd go there and visit a lot.
What were their names? What can you remember?
My grandfather's name was Wilbert, and my grandmother's name was Chloe Anna. And,
wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Was that after a family name or something?
I think it was, yeah, according to the fact.
Like, were they older when you were a child, or were they?
They seemed to be kind of old.
Yeah.
To me.
Were you around them a lot?
No, not a whole lot. When we moved to Pennsylvania, we would go up there and visit with them a lot. You know, we'd go one day and come back a day. And my sister they lived on a farm then, and we'd go play in the barn and look at the pigs. But we liked to go stay there when we were little, when we were in Maryland, because we liked their bedroom. They had wonderful bedrooms, and they had the pitcher with a basin where we could wash our hands and everything, and upstairs, you know, they didn't have any running water or anything like that.
Tell us about your parents. What were their names, and maybe if you can remember when they were born?
My dad's name was William Albert.
William Albert.
Yeah, and Mom's was Blanche Ethel.
And then what did your parents do for a living? What did your dad do? Was your mama a stay-at-home mom, or did she work?
My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad had several jobs, but he worked on the road a lot. And in Maryland, he was a Watkins salesman, which I used to go around with him when I was about 5 years old, when we lived in Deerpark, Maryland.
Now, how many children were in your family, and can you name them, like, from oldest to youngest?
Yeah.
All right.
There's 7. There's
Lauren,
Leah, O.C., Glenn, Martha, me, and Everett.
Now, what year were you born?
1924.
1924. So you were a child in the Depression and World War II and all that. So what was your child like? Was it just, would you say it was a happy childhood, or that you were, you had to work a lot as a child, lots of chores, lots of responsibilities?
We used to pick bean beetles and potato bugs, and it got pretty hot one day, and Martha and I prayed that it would rain so we could go home, and sure enough, it wasn't long till it was raining. So.
Now, did you have like an acre you were assigned to, or a half an acre,
no.
or just rows that you had to do?
Yeah, yes, just rows.
Now, what'd you do with these critters when you picked them off?
We had a can.
Oh, okay.
can with
Okay.
something in it, oil or something. I don't know what they had in it, you know.
All right.
So,
And like, what was family life like? How did you get along with brothers and sisters? Were you?
very good. My sister and I, we played together a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And
How far apart were you in age?
she was born in March and I was born in, let's see, November. Year.
Okay,
Year
a
and 5
year.
months or something like
All right.
that.
And she was your buddy, eh?
Yeah.
Oh. Now, did you have like indoor games that you played a lot, or did you prefer outside running around? And
Well, we did a lot outside in Maryland in the farm. We had a lot of activities, go sled riding, and at one time up in Maryland, we had a big long hill and a creek at the bottom of the hill. And so we were trying to, they had fish and things in there. They had tadpoles. And I reached down to get some tadpoles and I fell in head first. It was winter.
oh my goodness.
And we had to go up the hill through the orchard. And to Mom, she was pretty upset. So
Like
she covered me with blankets and, you know.
back then, it was a much safer society. Were you as kids just allowed
Oh, yeah.
to you just ran? Did you have to report all the time to mom and dad, tell them
No,
what things were like,
no.
and where you were going or anything? Because they knew you were going to be somewhere on the farm,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was.
We never traveled, or we never went anywhere unless we told them about our my girlfriend that I
Yeah.
went to school with. We go visit them a lot, and
Do you have any specific childhood memory that one of those, like we all have one that just sticks out, either it was an awesome day or an embarrassing day or something really wild happened at a certain time in your childhood? Or
yeah, I had my tonsils out
at what age?
at 5,
Oh,
and my
okay.
sister had her tonsils out at the same time. My oldest sister, Leah, had her tonsils out at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So
How long were you in the hospital for that?
probably 3 days.
Okay.
I was in the hospital 3 days. So,
Did you get popsicles like they do today?
I don't remember that.
I remember that part, eh?
Probably not.
Are there any particular, like, funny, sad, or kind of lessons you learn, maybe even the hard way, that, like, okay, I'll never do that again? Where you?
Well, yeah. One time on the farm, my dad decided he wanted a bowl for his cows. And I took something red, because I heard bulls didn't like red. And I took that red cloth and went out close to the bull with swinging around, and he started after me, and I ran and jumped over the fence and ran in the house.
Now, so, like, you were, during the World War II, were you a young adult, teenager,
Yeah, I was about
young adult?
14, 15.
From that. So did the war itself have any big change on your life on the farm or wherever you were at the time?
Well, we lived in Pennsylvania
Oh, in
then.
Pennsylvania, okay.
84 Pennsylvania we lived.
Now, did you have any, like, girlfriends that you were girlfriends back in teen years and you just kept up with them almost like all your life?
Well, up until they died.
Give us the name of your grade school and high school,
Okay, the grade school, when
elementary, whatever.
when I went to school, it was up in Deerpark, Maryland. It was called Spring Glade, and it was owned by my mother, and only went to the 7th grade. So, but we moved up there when I was about 7 years old. Moved from there when I was about 10. But we used to walk to school for a whole mile. And I remember one time it was really, really windy, bad out in the winter time, because the snow would be up around the telephone wires and
Yeah.
things. And we went to school, and Martha and I was the only one at the school. No teacher wasn't even there.
Oh, shut up.
So then we had to walk home. The high school was Trinity, and met a fella there when I was in high school, and he asked me to the prom. And of course, I went to the prom, and I had to sneak a gown out because my dad never allowed us to dance. So Martha was out in Akron working, and so I wrote her a letter and asked her if she couldn't buy me a gown. So she sent me $5, and I got this beautiful little gown for $5.
Oh, wow.
So I had to hide it in the back room of our house, and then I took it to school, stayed at my girlfriend's house, and after school I would go to her house and change, and we'd go to the prom. And
Did
he
your
brought
dad-
me home, and I'd have to sneak it back in the house.
Did your dad ever find out?
No, I never called. I never told him for about I'm probably well, he died in '89. Probably a few years before that I told him.
And let me ask you this question. When you were in school, like nowadays, from the time they're young, they're asking you, what are you going to be when you grow up? Did you have one of those picked out when you were growing up in school?
No, I just wanted to get married and have some kids.
And you did that.
Yeah.
You fulfilled. Oh, that's cool. What was your very first job? And how old were you when besides your work on the farm and that kind of thing?
I was 18,
Earlier.
and I come out here and went to Akron, and Saltfield Publishing Company was my first job, and I put books together,
Oh, wow.
and I made 50 cents an hour.
Was that
And
considered good pay at that
yeah,
time?
I guess it was.
Now, where were you living at that point?
I was living on Sherman Street in Akron with my two sisters,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Leah and Martha.
Now, why did you all come to Akron? What was here? Jobs or?
Relatives,
Oh, okay.
favorite aunts, and they came to Akron, and then I followed them. They were here, and then I followed them when I was 18.
So were your sisters working as well at that time?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Everybody was
they were-
working. Jobs
yeah.
were plentiful, I assume. You could get a job
Yeah,
fairly easily.
Yeah.
And then, was church life a big part of your life at that point?
It was very big part because my sister was a youth leader, and she had me get up and read a poem, or say a poem about the fiddler. I forget what the name of that is. I forget what the name of that is.
Oh, that's okay.
Anyway,
Anyway.
I have a picture up here in
Yeah.
my room. On
Where did she have to say this poem? At church?
at church,
Okay.
at young people's meeting on
All right.
in fact, I think it was whole church on Wednesday night. There, we walked to church, Church of God on Market Street. We
Mhm.
lived on Sherman Street, and after church we'd go get ice cream cones at Isley's for 5 cents,
Wow.
big ones.
Now, did you go to the Church of God when you were younger? What kind of churches did you grow up in?
When I was younger, you mean at home?
Yeah, like growing up as
well,
a child and.
Nazarene,
Mhm.
Baptist.
Mhm.
I guess we went 2 or 3 different kinds of church.
Mhm.
No.
Well, one of the greatest heritages we can all pass on is our faith in Christ. At what age did you accept the Lord?
16.
16.
16, yes.
Was there what happened that, did you just come to realization suddenly that, well, I need Jesus?
Well, we had a evangelist. There was three brothers, the Yonce brothers were there, and it was a revival. And of course, me and my sister Martha and my mother all went to the altar.
You see. Have you ever seen a miracle in your life?
Well, the miracle I call
Mhm.
miracles, when my dad, who was 70 years old, was up on his roof, fixing a roof, and he fell off on his head on the
Oh my
cement.
goodness. Wow.
And they took him to Pittsburgh Hospital, and they wasn't expecting him to live. Well, he lived to be 87.
How did you meet Frank, and how old were you? How old was he, if you can remember that dynamic? And like, what was the magnetism?
I had this friend that we used to go out riding, and he wanted me to meet his buddy. So after church, he took me over to his friend's house, Blessing House, and we walked in, and Frank stood up, and I thought, man, he's tall, dark, and handsome.
Love at first sight, eh?
Yeah, first sight. And so we sat there and talked, and then later we went out. Charles and Frank and I went out riding.
Now, when you say that, that's interesting. Like, when you go out riding, like, what does that mean? Like,
Well, we'd get in the car and just
Ride around.
drive around. You know, I didn't know.
of course, gas
anybody.
was only 13 cents a gallon, so you could afford
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Didn't have to worry about that stuff. So anyway, you just rode around. Now,
Yeah.
how were you seated at that point? Who?
I was between Charles and Frank.
Oh, okay. In the back
And-
seat.
No, in the
Oh,
front
in the front seat. That's
Yeah,
right. They
yeah.
used to have 3 people in the front seat. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah. So it wasn't too long. I was over against Frank more than.
Oh. Did he like that?
Frank did. I don't think Charles did. But
So then,
anyway.
what was the next step in their relationship after that riding
Well,
around?
he would call me. We'd go out and have hamburgers,
Mhm.
you know, or we'd visit friends. And
So was it a
he was
romance at that point, or just still friendship?
just friendship
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
And he was in the service, of course. And he was on furlough.
Okay.
So he didn't have too much time for us
Yeah.
to, do too many things. He went to Germany and
Mhm.
France. And so he wrote letters, and I wrote back.
Mm.
But his writing was so fancy I couldn't hardly make it
Oh,
out.
right.
So I quit writing to him.
Cool. Now, what? Just for sake of data, what were his parents' names, and what were they kind of like? Go ahead.
They were really wonderful.
Christians.
Oh, yes. And of course he taught Sunday school and,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And
Like, what do you even remember? Kind of what year he came home, or
well,
then
he
how-
came home in November of '45.
So the war had ended at that time. Yeah.
The war had ended.
Okay, exciting
And,
time.
he tried to call me quite a few times. And I lived with my girlfriend Charlotte. We had bought this little house together.
Really?
And so she never did tell me that he called. And it wasn't until the next June that she made a mistake saying, well, I think she went to church tonight, and he knew I went to church.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to church. And from then on, we were together.
Do you remember the date he proposed, or the year?
Yeah, he proposed in June of '46.
No, June of '46.
Yeah.
Where? How?
Well, he proposed. We drove over to this airport where a lot of people go park.
Mm.
And so that's when he asked me to marry him.
Oh, okay.
That was in June,
What airport was that?
down here at Canton, there, Akron. And
Okay.
so-
What? Now, how long were you engaged or date?
Well, we got married in July of '46,
What date?
20th,
Okay.
July 20th,
And where was that at?
the Church of God.
At-
And,
And then, kind of a sad thing, but you had a wonderful life together. How long were you married before Frank went to heaven?
we were married almost 49 years.
49.
It would have been 49 in July, but he died May the 13th, day before Mother's Day.
Well, God gave you 3 wonderful kids.
Okay, Bill was the first, and he was born February the 29th. Don't ask me what year, I think it was 54. And then Mary was in September 14th. And of course Shirley's was first.
Yeah.
She was born in
So it was
48.
Shirley Shirley,
was the first one, 48.
Mary, Bill.
Bill,
Okay,
yeah.
in that order. Now you you were a stay-at-home mom, of
Yeah.
course. Frank worked where?
He worked
during
at
those times?
Goodrich.
Okay,
I mean, Farston,
Yeah.
tire builder at Farston.
right. Frank was working, traditional family, mom stay at home
Yeah,
after a while,
yeah.
3 kids, busy.
Very busy. Yeah, I would can tomatoes,
Oh, really?
green beans, and do a lot of canning.
Did you have sit-down dinner every night or some
Every
nights?
day.
Every night.
Day,
eh?
every night.
You attended churches. Obviously, you were faithful in churches, and Frank was a Bible teacher and those kind of things through
Yes,
the years.
a very good one.
Yeah, yeah, very in depth.
Yeah.
And so, what kind of ministries were you involved in the church?
I was a Sunday school teacher.
Okay.
This one little church we went to, we would get together. The women would get together and make quilts,
Hmm.
which is a lot of fun.
Now, how many grandkids do you have? Do you know the number? You probably can name all, but we won't hold you to that. But
Well, 4,
and then
8,
you have
10,
great grandkids.
12.
Oh wow.
12, 13, I think, counting Sandy.
Mhm.
And altogether with Bill's second family, they had 4, I have 20-some great-grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you have been you're almost 90 years old. You've loved the Lord your whole life, and you've consistently loved the Lord. And what a legacy that you have passed on to children, grandchildren, and you have many great-grandchildren. And then whoever sees this video that doesn't know you will know that Be Blessing loved Jesus above everything else.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.